Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the NPC Markets Morning Call. It's the 1st of June, first day of winter for Australia, and the AI boom was just sort of masking that Iran limbo that's still going on. Friday night was a bit of a mixed proposition, really. We still had some strength in those memory and chip stocks, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner there. But one sector that you can see in the middle there, technology services, which has got a lot of the software companies in it, had a really good bounce back. CrowdStrike and Palo Alto in the cybersecurity sector still just absolutely smashing it. Microsoft and Oracle had a pretty good day for the first time in a long while. IBM was starting to head higher on a recycled video from President Trump, which is a bit weird, but some last December, but it sort of caught fire on social media and got people talking about, IBM. I suppose people are looking at it because of that Dell result. Dell was up like 33 odd %. And then we've got Snowflake's up 50% in the last 4 days. So yeah, we've had that, that software sector, which I'll show you a chart just a little bit further down the podcast. Has had its best month since 2001, so 25 years. For those of you who've been watching for a long time or watched our Software Survivors webinar, we told you. But yeah, we are going to do a follow-up webinar this month on that Software Survivors and give a bit of an update. It's been it's basically been a quarter since we put that webinar out and put a strategy out. So, but as you can see, largely fairly mixed apart from, very concentrated sectors. We're starting to see, not the steam run out, but like that massive momentum come out of some of those chip stocks. And we're sort of starting to see that second phase revenue come through for, the cloud providers and things like that, and that's kind of what started to get this software sector a little bit better off. Not so good in the retail sector. Gap dropped 15% after slashing annual sales forecasts, and we had some updates from Anthropic. They raised 65 billion Series H, and a 965 billion valuation, and their run rate revenue crossed 47 billion. And we had SpaceX targeting a 1.8 trillion IPO. The roadshows are going to begin on midweek this week, basically. So look, you had it wasn't a huge win really. The Dow was up a little bit, 0.62. The S&P up 0.2. The Nasdaq up 0.36. The Russell was actually down. The Aussie made a bit of a bounce back. We sort of expected that. Nikkei, but running up a little bit. But overall, it's a pretty sort of, I guess, subdued market, I suppose, in the scheme of things. We had gold bounce back, silver bounce back slightly, copper was flat, platinum largely flat, but nothing in any no major moves. Certainly not the likes that we're used to. Over the last sort of 3 or 4 months, in particular. So overall, but this is the software chart here. This goes back to Q3 2024, and as you can see here, we've obviously gone. This is the smooth moving average. We're at least back in a neutral territory. We're back through that midline, and that was like a sensational finish to the month, basically overall. So that would have helped the technicals incredibly, and you would just hope at this point it just started to maybe head a little bit higher, but consolidate those levels. And that SaaSpocalypse, which was obviously around about its worst there in that February to April period. It's definitely sort of bounced back out now. So yeah, overall, I mean that cybersecurity part of the sector has really led it, and then those cloud services parts have helped quite a bit. So yeah, but we'll give a bit of an update. We had that great dashboard. We'll make a few updates to that as well. and sort of go back and review our thesis and have a look at where we were right, where we were where we were wrong, what was unexpected, we didn't foresee, and give ourselves a pat on the back for the things we did see, I suppose. But yes, and this is just an image of the Blue Origin launch or failure to launch the other day. That, I guess, is not the greatest thing to happen into a SpaceX IPO. They said there's debris kilometers from the scene. It looked like a nuclear blast. But just a little bit of context here is that, the actual physics of of launching, they've got to be 85% fuel, these things. That's the most flammable mix they've got. And so when they blow up, basically they do something like this. And this is from, you could see this explosion from 30 or 40 k's away. It'll take months for them to even just pull back the launch pad to any sort of usable format. But this is sort of everyone's enthusiasm around this space thematic, etc., and all these things that can happen is. But what people are going to realise is that these explosions still happen, and in terms of physics and science and engineering, this is literally the hardest thing you can possibly do in terms of engineering, and investors probably just don't want to be counting their chickens before they hatch, sort of thing. Because Blue Origin's been around a very long time. They're backed by Amazon and Bezos, and they've got NASA contracts, etc. I mean, this sort of stuff still happens, and we're talking multi-million-dollar losses. And then mucking around with and pushing back schedules a significant amount of time. So it's a still very early stage sector. I highly recommend When the Heavens Went on Sale is a great book if you're really interested in the space, and you're really interested on investing, and go and have a read of that. It's a fantastic book that sort of tracks multiple of these rocket, satellite, and space sort of theme startups. So this week overall, we've got some small numbers. We've got Australian GDP middle of the week, the big dog in payrolls on Friday night. We do have CrowdStrike and Palo Alto numbers mid this week. Hewlett Packard as well on Tuesday, and I would say that's going to be that appears to be Tuesday morning, actually. So that'll be tomorrow morning. Well, and it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see how they're going. They've had a bit of a tailwind rally because of Dell. It'll be I think people will be watching that to see if there's any further uplift broadly across the sector. Broadcom as well. That'll be 7 a.m. on Thursday morning, and that really is the last of it. It feels like Broadcom, that may be a mistake in the calendar, but I'll double check that for us and work out that tomorrow. You've got Fed Chair Powell speaking Monday at tonight at 7:30 p.m. And then basically this would be either his last or last speech as chair, but he's just a board member now, I think. And then we've got RBA Bullock and Kent at Senate Economics Committee Thursday, and that pretty much. And then RBA's Ian Harper speaks Tuesday as well. Looking at sort of a bit of an update from the RBA on pausing overall. So yeah, there's enough during the week to be looking at, but overall, I don't think there's any sort of major key announcements really until Friday when payrolls comes out, and we see if there's sort of a weakening economy at all. The SPY finished down about 13 points. We'll probably start defensive this week, I would imagine. And you've got a few commentators saying that there's actually a risk of quarterly GDP contraction in Australia, which would be the first since the GFC. I would be surprised if that happens. I dare say that's just an economist trying to grab a headline, but yeah. But for those of you who enjoy the morning call, please subscribe. Either on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. We've also got our weekly podcast, Bulls versus Bears. Jonathan Takadena and I recorded episode 121 on Friday. We talked about passive inflows and the dominance of passive inflows, as we call the mindless green robot. And we sort of discussed a bit of an update on weekly markets, both here in the US, record highs and AI frenzy. So you can go to, as I say, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Have a look at MPC Markets. You can see both of our podcasts, both the morning call here and that you're listening to right now, and the weekly one. And you probably be able to see a few of, or potentially some past webinars and things as well, if you go and have a look at YouTube. But yeah, it really helps us if you subscribe or like or make comments on it. It'd really help us out. So I'd appreciate it if you could go and do that for us. Other than that, people, have a great day, and we will speak again tomorrow.